There we go.
Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome today. We start off a little bit late today, about 20, 30 minutes, a little bit past our normal scheduled programming. But today we're here to talk about the infamous Dr. Umar Johnson, a great, amazing oratory communicator. And we're going to discuss some of his points on a recent interview. The purpose of this is not to celebrate Dr. Umar or to in any way deride Dr. Umar. The purpose of this is just to break down the difference between sophistry and reason. A lot of times when you hear people communicating and you don't know the difference between what makes sense versus what just sounds good, there's a science to it. We're here to break that down for you. So that's what we're here to do today. The Vulcan and Enos. We'll have some special guests popping up here in a little bit. But as of right now, we're going to dig right into it because it's already almost 10 o'clock. So we're going to dive into it. And then feel free to leave any kind of comments, suggestions, questions. We're here to address everything. Holla at me. Vulcan and Enos coming at you.
Yes. This is Enos. Like I said, this show is designed to, elevate, highlight critical thinking. And, it's an art. Like I said, the last show is an art to analyzing, right? Analyzing. I would like for our culture to, make the attempts to reason at the highest level of quality. That's my goal. So think about your thinking while you're thinking. I say that. Think about your thinking while you're thinking. Right? All right, so you ready?
Let's get it.
All right, so we're up at 30 minutes. Let's share this stream. Oh. Hold on. Do you hear that? I don't know what this is. All right, so let's just pick up where we left last time and let's get into it. All right, here we go.
Amir, we reacted and we needed to. Rebellions are important. You understand? Riots are important. Revolutions are better. Give out some damn turkeys and sneakers. Are you kidding me? With the type of money that hip hop has generated around the world, there should be at least 25 Black Wall Streets in America right now. Chicago should have a Black Wall Street. LA should have a Black Wall Street. Atlanta should have a Black Wall Street. Memphis should have a Black Wall Street. Milwaukee should have a Black Wall Street. Little Rock should have a Black Wall Street with all the money that these gangster rappers are making, and yet and still they do nothing for their people. That is what Garvey is talking about.
Yeah, and you would think after all that we done been through that will come a day in which we'll unite some way,
No. And I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
Because it takes love to unite. It takes anger to react. Trayvon Martin, we reacted. Michael Brown, we reacted. Breonna Taylor, we reacted. Philando Castile, we reacted. Sandra Bland, we reacted. Tommy Rice, we reacted. Dante, Amir, we reacted. And we needed to. Rebellions are important. You understand? Riots are important. Revolutions are better. You know why we never get to the point of revolution? Because in order for that rebellion and that riot to become a revolution, the people involved must be committed spiritually to the liberation of their people. A riot and a rebellion is nothing more than a temporary temper tantrum. It's a temporary temper tantrum. That's not going to change nothing. You need revolution, sustained activity. But the problem is, Black people are not motivated by love. We're motivated by anger. And that's why you only see us get political when white people piss us off. If white people ain't pissing us off, we could care less what white people do to us. But when you piss us off, like taking the life of one of our loved ones, which should piss us off, the point that I'm making, before they killed your loved one, We should have already been policing our own community so nobody has to call 911 in the first place. You see how that goes? See, love, when you love your people, you build and do for them before there's a crisis. You see how that goes? When you taking care of your child, you educate them because you know they're going to need it later. You feed them because you know if you don't, they will get sick later. You're going to teach them who they are because if you don't, they're going to be brainwashed later. Because you love that child, what do? You solve problems before they even show up. Black America never solves problems before they even show up because you need love to solve a problem before it even shows up, and we don't have enough of it.
I agree. Can you tell us how has your mindset evolved over the years in terms of your approach to addressing educational and mental health disparities faced by African-American children?
How has it evolved? That's a great question. I'm sure it has. I probably can't point to specifically how, except to say that what I knew to be true 20 years ago,
still true.
I really know to be true now. You follow? Like I knew we needed our own schools for our children. But when Barack Obama came and dropped off that LGBTQ bomb in a public school, I said, we really need our own schools now. And you know what's so sad about that? With all of the brainwash going on in the schools right now, with all the brainwash, Black people are still not in a rush to open up their own schools for their children. I'm the only person I know of in the country, who's building an independent school without no white money, no government funding, no white corporate handouts, in a real school building, not a church front, not a basement, not a storefront, that's going to educate Black children into who they are without no participation from their oppressor. I don't see nobody else doing it. People talk a lot about the LeBron James school. LeBron James don't have no damn school. I keep telling Charlamagne this every time I'm on the Breakfast Club. They keep bringing up LeBron. He don't have a school. That's a public school with his name on it. And speaking of LeBron James school, did you see what happened a couple months ago? They got called out because for the past 2 or 3 years, not a single 8th grader in the school, I believe it was, passed the Ohio State math assessment. Now, mind you, LeBron pumping millions in here. You feel me? He pumped, so they can't use the excuse, we ain't got enough money. Y'all get more money than the most schools. Not a single Black boy passed the 8th grade math test at the LeBron James public school. What does that tell you? It tells you that paying white women more money to teach Black kids ain't gonna work. Because if they don't care about your damn children, it don't matter how much money you pay them, they still not gonna learn. Why am I bringing this up? Because the white teacher unions of America is constantly saying, if you want us to do a better job teaching Black kids, pay our teachers more money. Well, look at the LeBron James school. They getting more money, still ain't getting educated. Black children can only be taught by Black people. It is unfair to ask a white woman to educate a Black child. You know why? Because to ask a white woman to educate your Black child, do you know what you're asking her to do? You're asking her to put my child in a position to take a job from your child. You're asking her to put my child in a position to take food out of her child's mouth. What person is going to empower another group to take power from their own group? It is an absolute contradiction to have white women teaching Black children. But you know why they do it? Because number one, Black people don't love themselves enough to build their own schools. And number two, white people know that as long as white women are in charge of Black education, there'll never be an intellectual revolution.
So what motivates and drives you to continue to advocate for African-American children?
My ancestors. Right before I came here today, I went to the Ida B. Wells.
Yo, Mike, I can't hear you.
Oh,
Come on,
yeah.
man.
So as far as like what he's saying about LeBron's school, that's been publicly noted that the school, the kids weren't passing the basic information they needed to pass to be able to go to next grade. As far as what he's saying about the school in general, I need to see some information that suggests that Black teachers get better results from the students than white teachers. I've had a lot of my friends who are teachers, and they lament a lot of the same issues that I'm sure LeBron's school's dealing with. One thing we can say for sure is that throwing money at the problem doesn't help. LeBron has the money, the school, the kids still aren't passing.
Yeah.
So we know that, for the record, throwing money at the problem doesn't necessarily solve everything. But the thing is, when he talks about, like, you know, white teachers not being able to teach Black kids, as somebody who went through 1st or 12th grade at 12 different schools, I can't sit here and say that my white teachers were demonstrably worse than my black teachers. They're about the same.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I guess we got to see that data, but I have seen research on black people that got their doctorate degree. The success rate is higher if they went to a black HBCU. I have seen
I have
that.
heard that about the HBCUs. I've heard
Yeah,
that same thing about the HBCUs.
I don't
But
know
as far
about.
as like first through 12th grade, I
Yeah,
really
that's different.
haven't really seen a whole lot of that.
Mm,
I do know I've friends who are professors and doctors, and they teach in the high schools, and now I went off to do other things. And I know there's some information that talks about um, kids have representation in the classroom by their teachers is somewhat helpful, but I haven't seen a whole lot that really supports that.
mm.
But we can keep on going because I think he's going to make it even worse here shortly.
All right, let's go. Let's move on.
Those gravesite. I'm gonna have to go back because I had another interview I had to hop on, so I didn't get enough time. But everywhere I go, every city, man, I go pour some gin at my ancestors' graves because as someone who practices traditional African spirituality, we believe our ancestors are always with us. They are the angels. Okay, our ancestors are our angels. So I'm always calling on them because I don't really have nobody walking this earth who I can look to as a role model. The ones who I think could be role models, they don't do anything. And the ones who are actually out there prominent amongst the people, they're not really sincere. They're just money grabbers. So for me, I got to look back to the ancestors. So when I'm in Africa, I'm at Shaka Zulu gravesite. You understand? I'm at the Nambi Ezekiel gravesite. I was in Jamaica this past spring. I'm at Garvey gravesite. I'm at the Bob Marley house. I'm always looking for inspiration from the ancestors because I judge myself by their standard because there's no standard that exists right now for me to judge myself by. So I don't want to let them down because in my tradition that I practice, we come into this world with a purpose. Every one of us got a purpose for being here. You got to find it and you got to fulfill it. I was lucky enough to know what my purpose was in the 4th grade. I decided I wanted to be a psychologist in the 3rd grade. I came into Black consciousness and public speaking in the 4th and 5th grade. I found out I was related to Frederick Douglass in the 6th grade. So by the time I left elementary school, I knew I would be a freedom fighter for my people. So even with all the college degrees and all of that, it never took me. I know why I'm here, and that's the fight for the liberation of Black people. I have no confusion about my being. So I could put up with the slander. I could put up with the sabotage. I could put up with the white racism. I could put up with all the setbacks with the FDMG Academy because I know this is why I was born. I know my purpose. And when you know who you are and what you are here to do, nobody can deter you from that.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna ask, like, how do you handle criticism and pushback regard to your ideas and work?
Well, it's all indirect criticism and slander. There's never been a scholar to challenge me, Black or white, publicly. They can't. There's not a Black scholar who could go around with me in anything serious as it pertains to the liberation of Black people. Nobody on the planet can stand up against me. None of them. They think they can. They can't. That's why they don't come for me because they know better. They'll get that Garvey grenade. But the thing is, the support is 50 times stronger than the hate. So if you go on YouTube, you see a million hate videos, right? This YouTube struggle stream, this YouTube struggle stream. So it looks like Dr. Umar got all these detractors. But if I had all them detractors, how did we raise all the money and buy them schools? How did we raise all the money and renovate them schools? If I got all them detractors, why am I the most requested Black scholar in the world? Not America, the planet, for 13 years. It's never been done before. I'm the first ever. You see that? So if I had all this hate, how am I where I am? You see what I'm saying? The problem is the hate gets all the attention. The love don't. You know why? Because my supporters are mature people. They don't have time for the bullshit. You see that? The haters are immature people. They got time for the bullshit. My supporters don't get involved in that. People say, what you do with the school money? People want to know. People like who? Because all my supporters, they talk to me direct, my number public. I talk to my supporters all day long. They email me, they inbox me. So the people who rock with me, they good. It's the haters.
Yeah, see, this is that cultish perspective here where if you disagree with him or are critical of him, you are a hater. If you don't disagree with him, then you are a supporter. It creates this dichotomy, and any behavior within one category is classified as one thing. Can you be a critic of him and still be a supporter? That's my question. He doesn't really make that clear in his language here. It's either you're with me or against me. To me, this is that same Messiah complex. Either you're with me or you're against me.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is making a distinction between somebody who's a scholar or versus somebody who's claiming to be some type of messianic figure. They're not going to say they're a messianic figure. They're just going to say and move in a way in which you have to classify them that way versus somebody who's just saying, hey, look, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been studying. I've been learning for a long time. This is my perspective based off these premises. This is based off these perspectives. This is what I believe. Feel free to critique my points, and I'm believing you're going to arrive at the same conclusion I've arrived at. That's a scholar. Excuse me, that's a scholar. What this guy is saying is, my haters don't really raise any contention against me. Sorry, my haters raise contentions. My supporters don't raise any contention against me. That's cult language.
Is it cult, or you think he's trying to give a language that we can understand as a people, as a culture?
I think it's both. I think that as a culture, we can understand people who claim to be the greatest of all time. Jehovah, Jay-Z, Kanye. We love in our music and within the black context, hip hop. Our guys give themselves lavish perspectives on their character and their persona and who they are. That's what we do.
Yeah, I understand. I would just focus on the word hater. I'm like, that's kind of, that's in our culture. That's the language we tend to use a lot. So that's how. I don't know what other word he can use to get people to really identify what he's saying. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, we can keep on playing it though. We can keep on going further.
I did want to question when he said that the only way we can unite is love. I want to question that. That's going to be hard to do, to ask the community, right? As the people, especially if you look at statistics where the leading cause of death is homicide for black men. So that's asking a lot. If you're saying the only way we can intellectually revolution or whatever.
Yeah.
You remember him saying that?
Yeah.
It says through love. That's a lot to ask a community where the leading cause of death is from people that look like us. To ask them that. If you say that you want to see this movement through love, based on what? That's the question I want to ask. Based on what? I know it's love, but there got to be something underneath love, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, what's your thoughts on that?
I think that he's saying we got to unite under love. Mm-hmm. I don't really get what he means by that, because when people jump on his streams to disagree with him or even to ask questions, he calls him a coon. Mm-hmm. Is that love?
Or
is that love on its own way?
And if you do something that's something he disagree with you about, it could be comical. But I heard him say he wants to give the person 50 lashes. I think I heard him say he wanted to give Deion Sanders 50 lashes.
Yeah, that's it. They're getting lashes because they disagree with him.
So how is that any different from the slave masters back in the day? I want to question that. Maybe he's joking. Yeah.
Not much different at all.
So we're joking about getting 50 lashes or 10 lashes or 20 lashes to grown men with children, men with with grandkids, So, yeah, and then also, so when he said, also I want to touch on a question when he said we could commit. No, what was it? African spirituality. That's an ambiguous term. I wanted to really elaborate and get more in depth. Maybe he will later on in this video. I want to see what he meant about the African spirituality, because when you look at African spirituality, a lot of they practice, like 1,000 of those practices or rituals that's going on over there. So one in particular, what he's saying, So now I agree. I guess he's clarifying as far as ancestry worship. So I understand that. Just to clarify, I guess give it a name for what his spiritual practice is. All right, we can get back. You got anything before we go to the show?
That's it.
All right, cool.
Who got 1,000,001 questions because they don't want to see you succeed. And it's a shame, because I think we're at a point right now in our sojourn in America as black men where some of us would rather see another brother fail than thrive, even if what he's working for is for the greater good of the community. I'm seeing people destroyed on the internet. Separate from myself, they can't destroy me. I'm on a mission from God, but I'm seeing other people being destroyed on the internet with the scantiest of proof. Why y'all tearing this brother down? He got a family to feed. He got a career. Y'all keep doing this, they're gonna fire him because it's not a good look, even though the information is false. We don't care. You got a whole community of black men on YouTube who are so dissatisfied with their life, they've dedicated to destroying the lives of other black men, and it's a shame.
That's a fact. So can you discuss any personal experiences that have shaped your current mindset or strengthen your mindset?
Wow. A million of them. If I take education, right? And of course, I'm a certified school psychologist. My doctorate is clinical psychology. I get stories from Black parents damn near every day about what's happening with their children. You feel me? So every day I'm reinforced that my work to save our children is something that's necessary and valued. So next week I'll be in Memphis, Tennessee, which is Queen Mother Ida B. Wells' earlier home. She was born in Memphis, but of course she got to start born in Mississippi, but she got to start in Memphis. And I'll be doing a Black parent boot camp. I got to come back to Chicago and do it too, because I haven't done it here. A boot camp is a training I do for 12 hours where I teach Black parents how to advocate for their children. So we go through all the special ed.
And I told myself I wasn't going to cut in the video as much, but shout out to Dr. Ida B. Wells, rest in peace. For those that know, well known, she was a journalist back in the day, I think the early 1900s. She's one of the few people that was an advocate talking against the lynching that was going over Black men. When a lot of those communities, white communities, was accusing a lot of these Black men of raping these women.
Yeah.
She was one of the few people that was actually standing up, was like, nah, these women are not getting raped, they're actually participating and actually seeking out a lot of these Black men. So just a side note for those that don't know who Ida B. Wells is.
Law. We're dealing with the law. We go through the 504, the psychological eval, the IEP. We go through autism, the learning disability. I basically teach them everything they need to know. If they master what I give them, they'll be sharper than any educational attorney. I don't do it often because it's a 12-hour training. So I'm on my feet. It's very labor intensive, but I'm going to be doing that in Memphis. I got to come back and do it in Chicago. But to get back to your question, how do I remain motivated? It's because I get the stories. Not only do I get the travesties, I also get the testimonials, you see. So I'll get a text message from a mother who say, Dr. Umar, thank you for taking time out to talk with me yesterday, because you saved my son. I didn't know what to say when I got into that meeting, but because I talked to you first, I was able to stop them from expelling my boy. You see what I'm saying? Well, I get testimonies from Black boys who say, yo, you're the reason I ain't went back to jail yet. I had an elder. This is true. God is my witness. I had an elder. I can't remember if it was a text message or a phone call. You know what this man told me? He's probably at least in his late 60s. I think he might have been in his 70s, somewhere about. He said, Dr. Umar, you're the last
This is important.
I have for Black people. This is what he said. He said, you better not be a phony and you better not be a fucking sellout, because you're the last hope I got for Black people. Everything in me wants to quit. I'm paraphrasing him. He basically said, everything in me wants to quit, but I'm listening to you and I think you real. You better not be a fucking phony, because if you fellas, I'm out. I don't know if he meant suicide. I don't know if he meant he giving up, but that elder said, I'm watching you. Don't fail me. Don't be like these other phonies on YouTube. You better be the real deal. So the point that I'm giving you, bro, is I get feedback daily from my supporters, haters too, but mostly supporters that really inspires me to keep on going. For example, I show up to a lecture, right?
Let's pause it right there.
Somebody will be there with a life-size painting of me.
Let's go. Speak on it.
So you got this guy who's bringing up an example of an elder, as he says, that's telling him, you're the last hope. If without you, I'm giving up hope. Hope in what? What is he saying? Like, is Dr. Umar some type of liberation guru? Is this some type of guy who's going to lead us to the next civil rights paradise? I don't get what this is about. This again is him propping himself up to be some type of Messiah that he's not. What does the guy mean by you're the hope for Black people? Is this guy shackled in some kind of way? Can he not, like any of us, go do what he wants to do when he feels like doing it? Isn't he living in a capitalistic society where as long as he has the money to do it, he can do whatever he wants to do? So again, this is this guy posturing himself in a way to be able to garner support as some type of liberation Messiah. We're just fine. So we have somebody in the chat put the elder might kill himself.
I was like, he can't be an ancestor then.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good point, because
I mean, for the audience that know, I just wanted to just clarify for the audience that know that some of the rules and engagement, in order to be an ancestor, you can't become an ancestor by committing suicide. But go ahead, Vulcan.
So yeah, that's my thing about it. This guy, again, propping himself up to be some kind of Messiah by saying that some ancestor told him or some elder told him, you better be the real deal. Real deal in what way? Is he saying he's infallible? He's a human being. He's going to make mistakes. Pan-Africanism is a philosophy that has pros and its cons, like everything else. You know, so my thing is like, this is, again, that person who's an elder is misguided. And that's why I think this show is so important, because people are placing their hope in a regular human being that is fallible.
Mhm.
And that type of pressure is not warranted in this situation. Dr. Umar is a sharp individual. He's passionate about his perspective. He seems to really have a certain type of conviction about himself. That's all perfectly fine. Very knowledgeable gentleman, but he's not the Messiah.
Mhm.
He can be
Yeah.
wrong. He can make mistakes.
Mhm.
He can err. He can decide to go a different route. He could change his mind and go from being a Pan-African to being a Buddhist or whatever the beliefs are out there that he might want to be. He could become a Christian.
Mhm.
I don't want that
Yeah.
elder out there who's relying on Dr. Umar to do whatever he thinks he's going to do to keep him alive or to give him hope. You live in a place where you can pretty much do what you want to do when you want to do it. You can even
Mhm.
attack the government without anybody touching you. So
Yeah. Yeah. Some could argue that's what he's doing, actually making a lot of claims about this country and able to travel, make a living off of it, and build a school within the same
fact.
country he's criticizing. I also want to touch on to keep in mind for the audience, like we said, this is the purpose of the show. We got to be careful when people are propping themselves up as the person who has the answers, right?
That's all the
Oh,
answers.
oh,
And it's not wrong and anything, but we can keep on going
yeah, we could go. I just want to say,
with what
remember,
covered.
it's always best that if culture want to have a code or want to gain some ground and make changes within your community or within this country, remember the code has to be the the code has to be above the person, not follow the person, but follow the code, the manual.
Yeah.
That's what we have to keep in mind. If he's telling the elders telling he's the last hope and not really try to promote a doctrine or a code of ethics, then you can see a lot of bad things could happen when you're just following one person.
For
Because
sure.
yeah. So let's get back into it. Anything else before we get back into it?
That's it.
All right.
I don't even know this person. This has happened like 50 times. I remember I was in South Africa a couple years ago. The brother came out with a painting of me. I don't even know this brother. Like, bro, it's an oil painting. One of the best things I've seen in my life. He said, "This is for you."
Hold
I
on.
said, "What?" And
Let me
stuff like
see.
that touch you. When I was in South Carolina, but that elder said, "You wait. I'm watching you. Don't fail me.
Video
Don't be
up.
like these other phonies on YouTube. You better be the real deal." So the point that I'm giving you, bro,
Says,
is I get feedback daily from my supporters. Hey,
and just to give just an example, can you hear me? Fine.
Yeah.
I just want to give an example. Like I said, even if it's not a religious doctrine, you see that in the military. They actually have a code of ethics that the military follow, and that's what give them, how they able to be successful with what they do.
Yeah.
They don't prop a person up. You didn't never seen examples in the military. They propping up George Washington or propping up other well-known generals that's in America's military. So that's why I was just trying to give an example of what I meant by propping up a code of ethics. If it's not a doctrine to help the people move
Yeah.
forward, if that's what your agenda is. All right.
haters too, but mostly supporters that really inspires me to keep on going. For example, I show up to a lecture, right? And somebody will be there with a life-size painting of me. I don't even know this person. This has happened like 50 times. I remember I was in South Africa a couple years ago. The brother came out with a painting of me. I don't even know this brother. Like, bro, it's an oil painting. One of the best things I've seen in my life. He said, "This is for you." I said, "What?" And stuff like that touch you. When I was in South Carolina speaking at Juneteenth, sister came with a life-size painting of me. I said, "Damn, I got about 50 of these. I got like 50 of these." People just bless me with that. They don't do that to everybody. There's nobody else on YouTube getting that kind of love. I get it because people see me, they believe in me, and I've actually helped them. And one of the reasons why I'm so thankful to God for giving me FDMG is I was always very, very sensitive or conscious about being lumped in with all the other so-called fake woke black speakers on the internet. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, most of them ain't nothing but hustlers. They're not building nothing and they're not fighting nothing. I'm fighting school to prison pipeline and I'm building a school and I'm helping parents save their children. Nobody else I know doing that. If you're an economic guru, where's your bank? You an economic guru? Where's your credit and loan association? You an economic guru? Where your investment club? If you're an economic guru, why you ain't got no economic vehicles for black folks? You do diet and nutrition? Good, that's important. Where your clinic at? Where your school at? You see what I'm saying? I'm looking for the institution and the service that goes along with what you're doing that is beyond dollars and cents. And I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing a bunch of people hustling in the name of black consciousness so they can raise enough money to go live a white life. They're not real. Maybe one or two of them, most of them.
Yeah, let's stop it right there real quick.
So how do you balance like your passion, of education for
Speak on it.
So this is classic cult language. Everybody else is trash. I'm that dude. That's what he said.
Mm.
Everybody else is trash. I'm that dude.
Mm. As far as yeah, but in particular, he's talking about the conscious community, though. I mean, I guess,
yeah. The other guys are
yeah.
hustlers.
Well, I mean, that's just yeah. Okay.
The other guys are hustlers. I'm the real deal. Where's your school? He's got a school that hasn't even opened yet, but he's already using it to make his point as far as how he's better than the rest. And again, I'm not saying you can't bring this stuff up. I just want people to recognize what he's doing. He's propping himself up against the rest to be that one.
But if you look at yourself as an advocator, what's the best ways to let the people know who's the people who's really for your best interest versus people that's not? If you consider yourself an advocate, how do you do that? And what's the point of suggestions? What you think?
Do the work. Do the work, and the people will see. Everybody's not meant to contribute in the same way. And so do the work, and your fruit will be the determining factor at the end of the day. That's how I look at it. But when you're and I will give him credit, he's not mentioning any names. But when you're putting other people down to lift yourself up, you're not doing no different than what cults do. Nobody has the truth but us. Nobody's really living it but us. That's cult language. Anybody who studies different cult groups, I won't name them right now, but anybody that's studied this different cult groups, they're always gonna disparage the other organizations in favor of their own. Not based off of empirical, verifiable information. I'm not saying, hey, look, they believe this, we believe that. That's the difference. But he's attacking things that are very nebulous and things that are very generic. Who? Yeah. When? What? We don't know. Just this group outside of ourselves, outside of himself specifically, is not on his level, both in integrity as far as walking it, and then in the actual message that's being communicated. That is inferior.
Is that possible to measure those things? His accomplishment, him saying he's the most requested scholar on this planet. Can we measure that? Is that possible?
That's somewhat quantifiable. I mean, I wouldn't bother myself with trying to figure it out, but I think that's pretty much quantifiable. I mean, you can look at online and see who's getting the most views based off of showing up on different types of shows, popular and unpopular.
Okay. All right, let's get back into it. You got anything else you want to say before
That's
we
it.
start? All right.
for young black children with like your own, self-care,
The self-care comes in spurts.
Okay.
You feel me? So there's natural breaks. So for example, I'm in Chicago now. I get back home tomorrow. I got to take care of some business. I got the weekend to myself. You feel me? I'll relax. One thing I've noticed, there's a natural rhythm to the revolution. You feel me?
Right.
That gives you a natural break. So the next week I'm off. And then I got to hit the road again. I got Memphis, I got Massachusetts, I got Omaha, Nebraska, where I've only been once prior. And then I got Kansas City, Missouri, where I haven't been in like 7 years. And see, because I believe my message is so important for our people, especially for the parents when it comes to education and mental health, I feel obligated to visit all the major black cities at least once every couple of years. You feel me? So only coming to Omaha for the second time, that ain't good. That's Malcolm X's birthplace. Kansas City, that's a big Dr. Umar city. I ain't been there in 7 years. So I feel guilty about that because in them 7 years, there's parents who went through things with their children, who needed me, who might not have heard of me. Because even though I'm very well known, there's a lot of people, I still get text. I just got a text message the other day. I never heard of you before and I can't stop watching you, sister. So I feel an obligation to get around in the major cities. And even when the small cities call, like Norwood, Massachusetts, I feel obligated because people say, Dr. Umar, we only got 100 black people in this town. We only got 200 black people in this town. I don't know how many books you can sell. Oh, it ain't about selling no books. It's about saving the children. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm not going to let you take advantage of me because that's happened to me before. But at the same time, it ain't about that. For example, I just got called from an HBCU the other day. The brother said, Dr. Umar, we're going through some financial stuff at our HBCU. Everybody want to see you up here. I'm very popular on the HBCU campus. The reason why I haven't spoken at everyone is because the administration is normally black bourgeoisies who don't like my message, threatened by my message, or jealous that I'm more popular than they are on their own campus. So this brother just called me. This 2 days ago when I was in Baltimore. He said, we got a money problem. He said, I don't know, but we can be able to pay you, but we working on it. I said, listen, what's the date for the event? We take care of the money when y'all get the money. But right now, the students need to hear me. I'm coming. That's how I move out. You see what I'm saying? So even though I got to make sure I'm being compensated at the same time, I cannot let money replace the movement, because this is activism. This is not capitalism. This is supposed to be about struggle. It's not supposed to be about the hustle. And the brothers on YouTube to turn this damn thing into a hustle. We ain't nothing but Black Church 2.0. And that's what disappoints me about the Black consciousness community, because we're supposed to be the alternative to church. We're supposed to be the alternative to church. We became church. We function just like the pastors do on the get money past the plate type movement, but doing nothing for their constituency. You see what I'm saying? So I got to step away from that Black consciousness thing. I be telling people, listen, I might be the King Kong of consciousness, but I'm not a part of them dudes.
Speak on it.
So one thing I appreciate about Dr. Umar Johnson, aside from being a very amazing orator, is
energetic too.
Energetic, very knowledgeable and informative, a wealth of resource of information. But one thing that he says that I think is really important is that he says that the Black conscious movement was meant to be an alternative for the Black church.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
This is my concern with stuff like that, right? The Black church has very deep-seated foundations, archaeologically, theologically, philosophically. The Black conscious movement just came as an alternative to the Black church with none of their prerequisites. None of their foundations have been vetted, whether they're Egyptologists, whether there's 5%er doctrine, whether it's just whatever it is that's coming about, Islamic, whatever it is. It doesn't go as deep, it doesn't last as long, it doesn't have as much foundational truth to support it. So they only survive because people that were raised in the church felt like they already understood the Black church. So anything that was shiny and nice, they went towards that. I've seen it 1,000 times. The Black conscious movement, there was no real morality. What morality does that really have to go off of? What doctrine are they working with? What do you say to that?
Well, why is that important, though, the morality component?
Well,
when we talk about revolutionary.
What I'm saying, more important than the morality component, is what foundational dogmas or doctrines do they have to go off of? Is there a written constitution for what they're talking about?
Not that, yeah.
When I hear Erykah Badu, Jill Scott, Common, Nas, whoever it is, talking about 5% doctrine or Egyptology, I don't.
No, 5% they got a doctrine. They got the 100 lessons. They have a doctrine. The 100. Yeah, the lessons. I forgot I studied my lessons. I forgot. But they got a doctrine.
Yeah. So when I'm watching these guys talk about what they talk about, whether it's violence and pushing drugs, I never hear another person come out and say like, "Hey, that stuff's not in line with our doctrine."
Yeah.
My dad's from New York. He talked about the 5%ers were the main ones causing the problems in the parties in his era.
Yeah.
Think about Lecrae. What kind of issues Lecrae's been going through? The Christian community is on Lecrae's neck.
Yeah.
I'm not here to judge him right now. I'm just saying that there's some accountability there. I don't see that. So when the Black conscious movement comes into play, none of us know what they believe and what they don't believe. None of us hold them accountable. The only advantage they have is that we don't know what they believe and where they come from. So it's just anything's better than the old archaic Christian doctrine to a lot of people. That's all it is. So I just want to say he mentions it and says it, and I think Black people are going to hear this, that he's saying that it's an alternative to the Black church.
It was supposed to be.
It's supposed to be. I think people need to hear that. Nobody really knew that. Nobody really understood that. Most of the folks that I would see that were involved in the Black conscious movement, which I'm not saying all of this wrong, but the thing is that most of those people that are involved in that movement, a lot of them will quote the scriptures here and there. They made it seem like this is just something to, in addition to what you've already been accustomed to. And you have Dr. Umar right here, the King Kong of consciousness, saying this was meant to be an alternative.
Yeah, definitely was. And I heard some of the criticism I hear, or have heard about the conscious community. They don't actually have a place for you to go like the church does. And if you think about some of the revolutionary Black Americans in the last 400 years, their motivation was the Bible. Whether it's Denmark Vesey, Nat Turner, of course the Civil Rights Movement, a lot of those people was motivated by scriptures
Yeah,
in the Bible that
yeah,
motivated them to try to make changes in this country. But I mean, it's discrepancies with Nat Turner. Some say historians go back and forth. Some are realizing he didn't write a lot of those transcripts, so it's getting to the point nowadays people don't even know what his motivation was. But for what we know now, it was the Old Testament scriptures that motivated him to do what he
yeah.
did during that time period. Are you got anything else you want to
No,
say
let's
before we
get
move
let's
on?
get back in, let's get back into the vid.
All right, cool.
Over there. I know all them dudes. Most of them ain't doing nothing but making money for themselves.
I want to talk about the Black church. And the reason I do is because I'm damn near born and raised in the church. My granddaddy been preaching for 57 years now. So when I ain't gonna lie, when I listen to your opinions on the Black church, I kind of tune out just because it's kind of personal with me. But since we are having this conversation, I'm very interested in, how you feel about the Black church.
In order to understand my criticism of the Black church, and it's Pan-Africanists, we believe in freedom of religion. Marcus Garvey was a Christian. Malcolm was a Muslim, right? Most of my Pan-African forefathers, Bishop Turner, Alexander Crummell, Henry Holly Garnett, Edward Wilmot Blyden, these were pastors of the church, you see. Yeah. Pastors of the church. I had it read. Here we go. Pastors of the church, most of my Pan-African forefathers. So my issue is not with Christianity. I got a black Jesus tattoo on my left shoulder. Jesus was a revolutionary. I rock with the message of Christ. My issue is with the lack of accountability and service that the Black church delivers to the Black community. You got to realize, from a historical perspective, the Black church was the Walmart of the Black community. What I mean by that, if you was hungry, they fed you. Unemployed, they got you a job. Ku Klux Klan burning crosses on your lawn, they gonna go see them. Shoot out, the church is there with the guns. You need to bury somebody, they had the death insurance. Your child needed education, they got the school. You feel me? The Black church was the one-stop shop for everything Black people needed, from their revolutionary needs to their political needs to their spiritual needs. Compare that to the Black church today. You got Black churches that won't even bury you if you ain't got enough money paid into the church. These churches are asking for your tax return when you walk in the door. You got churches with ATMs in the lobby. And here's my issue with the Black church. The Black church takes three things from Black people we can't afford to waste, brother. Three very important things. Time. You don't get your time back. You got to go to prayer, Bible study, choir, women's meeting, men's meeting, blah, blah, blah. You're taking time, but you ain't building no institutions. Every Black church should have a school for our children, because most teachers are what? Affiliated with churches. You ain't got no after-school program. You ain't got no math program, no tutoring program, no rites of passage program. You collecting all this money, but you ain't doing nothing for our children. You ain't got no jobs for our men, no jobs for our children, no jobs for our teens. Here's the question. Name me a church in Chicago, a Black church, that's at the forefront of the fight against miseducation. You can't name one. At the forefront of the fight against mass incarceration in Chicago. Can't name one. Name one that's at the forefront against the fight to stop gentrification or the migrant takeover. A church. Can't name one. Name one that's at the forefront to stop police brutality, police genocide. You can't name one. Black America's 5 major problems doesn't have a single Black church spearheading the pushback for any one of them. You take our time.
Let's stop it right there. Let's stop it right there.
You're taking our money. Our money. Black people on average every Sunday.
Well, I probably shouldn't have stopped it. I probably shouldn't have stopped it because you're going to go into something that's very important here when it comes to the dollar the Black dollar that's being spent. But I want to focus on what he just finished saying here. See, this is a again, I'm in sales. This is a common tactic right here. It's kind of like whenever you people talk about who's the best rapper and stuff like that. Somebody say, name your favorite so-and-so lyric. People can't really do it. You know, so like, oh, what's the favorite lyric from that person? The reality is this. We can't name really anybody doing that stuff that he's referring to. Can you name somebody doing that stuff he's referring to? We can't really name any organizations. We don't live in Chicago. We're gonna name the NAACP. So it's a cheap ploy that's intended to make you think that there aren't people within the church doing things like that. The most philanthropic organizations in the world throughout human history have been the church. That's the reality of it.
That's a fact.
I'm not even Roman Catholic, and they do a lot of stuff in regards to their philanthropic practices. I'm not even Roman Catholic. So when people attack the church and the church isn't doing enough financially, which you're going to go into, if you go to any local church, they got a kitchen. They've got a place where people can come in there and eat for free. Just go inside of there. I went and visited many different churches at different points in time. Whether I agree with them or disagree with them, they had a place for people to get food, to get clothing, to get support. I've seen churches take women who were single moms under their financial load and provide for them so they can homeschool their kids. Black women at a predominantly white church. So my thing about when you're attacking the church about the things the church is doing, and I'm not here to defend every single church in the Western world or America, whatever you want to call it. My point is just saying this right here, is that when you go to Walmart and you see the Salvation Army, that's church. You know what I'm saying?
Goodwill.
When you go to Methodist Hospital, when you go to Baptist so-and-so hospital, that's the church. We think about education. That's historically was the church. So my point is saying good, bad, or indifferent, the church has had a monumental impact on philanthropic practices as far as education, as far as monetary, as far as a good Samaritan work and stuff like that, as far as like fostering children.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying a lot of stuff they're known to do in the past, but is it? What do you think about? Well, what he's saying, they haven't been doing enough present.
Well, I think we got to recognize what is the purpose of the church. If you and I create a religion today, right? So let's say you and I create a religion. We can pick our own mission statement and our own goals. And somebody from the outside can come and say, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And that's all well and good, but that might not be a part of our mission statement or vision. I've created LLCs and businesses. We have a mission statement. We have a vision, and we're going to accomplish that. The church was never set out to be that in the world. The church's purpose was to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and lead souls to be saved. In the process, they do a lot of work to help people who are impoverished, people who, all kinds of different situations. Fine. But that was never their main mission. Historically, the church was the poorest. When you look at the early church, before 325 AD, before Constantine, they were slaves and merchant class people. And it was illegal to be a Christian. They didn't have any money. They were running and afraid to show that they were Christians. They were being slaughtered, tarred, set on fire, lions eating them.
But does it take money? Do you need money just to help helping the poor, like he's saying?
Well, he's referring to money.
Okay. Well, I guess talking about the injustices that's going on in the city of Chicago, right? So.
Yeah, he's talking about money.
I'll wait on that. Okay.
So, but we can keep on going though. He's gonna get into the money.
How much?
More.
Yeah. But I mean that's a good point because the church does generate a lot of money within our communities, right? So, I mean,
now I'm not sitting here saying the church. Some of the churches ain't getting a little crazy with how they, with these superstar pastors and all that. I'm not saying they haven't. There's not a lot of excess going on there. There is a lot, and I'm a critic of that as well. But this is the issue. This is what one of my favorite scholars says. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. What I mean by that is this. The church is definitely not perfect. But the church is doing better than a lot of other organizations. What happens is we compare certain things, i.e. the church, for this instance, to our ideal of perfection, what we think an organization that was really for the people would be doing, right? We're not comparing it to other organizations where you work. You work at AT&T, you work at Verizon, you work at wherever you work. What are they doing in comparison to the church? Go to your local church, see how much they give. That's folks from that community. that care about that community. They're doing work in the community. Trust me on that. Even if the pastor got a Benz and a Rolls Royce, which is, there's still people in that church that are doing things to help the community, especially those women there. They're helping that community.
Although the church is corrupt, you saying the followers that's actually going to church probably still doing a lot in their communities. The people that
they still live in that community. They're still doing stuff. They're still helping out,
Your
the
grandma
father,
now.
helping out the widows. They're still helping out people, women who are strung out on drugs. I mean, I've been in so many church programs that got people that programs people that are on drugs. It's a common thing.
Yeah.
The rejects of society nobody wants to deal with. The church is dealing with those people on a regular basis. Even if that pastor has a Rolls Royce, you see what I'm saying? People are still dealing with that.
No doubt, no doubt.
So let's keep the video going. Let's go.
That's right.
They nationally gives the black church $3 million a Sunday, collectively. $3 million every Sunday. No schools, no banks, no hospitals, no supermarkets. How can I support the black church? My issue is not the doctrine. My issue is the lack of deeds. And this is why. This is why I understand when Karl Marx, and I'm not a communist, but I understand when Karl Marx said religion is the opiate of the people. It brainwashes you into political inactivity. The reason why black people in Chicago are sitting back watching these brown people take over their neighborhood is we've been brainwashed through church, through mosque. When I speak of church, I mean all the religions, not just Christianity. We've been brainwashed through black religion into believing that God is going to fix our problems when God is ready. Where else were we taught that? We were taught that on the damn slave plantation. Wait for God to come solve your problems. I understood it on a slave plantation because you were shackled. I understood it on a slave plantation. You lose your life if you tried to run away. I understand waiting for God to intervene on a slave plantation because you had no power. Why in the hell in 2023, 404 years later, we still waiting for God to intervene when we are $2 trillion people? Do you realize Black America is the 10th richest economy in the world? We're the richest group of blacks on earth in terms of income. And we waiting on Jesus and Muhammad to solve problems that we have the wherewithal to solve ourselves is not acceptable. Black women, $30 billion on weave and perm. White women have made you feel that unattractive that you spend 25% of your disposable income trying to look like them. Black men, $4 billion on liquor, $2 billion on Air Jordans, $100 million.
Yeah, again, I mean,
speak on it.
It's sensationalism. The reality is this. There's some truth to definitely what he's saying. I mean, when you look at black people collectively at what we spend, we will be the 10th richest country if we were a country. That's true. We've known that for years. That's obviously demonstrably true. The reality is this right here.
The country Khazar, I think we got the same amount of money as the country Khazar. I might be pronouncing that country wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is this. We're not waiting. I mean, I'm around black people all the time. Nobody's waiting on God to come down and whatever he's talking about. People living their lives. J.R. Smith said they over there, throwing money in the strip clubs. You know what I'm saying? Like, the reality is this. People are living their lives. They're doing what they got to do.
Even the church, he's really just specifically talking about the church, though.
But he said the church represents all the religions.
Okay.
He said the church represents all the religions and stuff like that. Now, the thing is about that is, I mean, that's kind of like unfair language because when you say church, our mind's going to go to one thing, which is the Christianity. But he's using it as a catch-all phrase, which, okay, fine, fair enough. I don't think it's the nicest thing in the world, but well, I'll go for it. But once we settle on that, my issue is this right here. You're saying that the church or the religions in general, they're not doing what they need to do for black folks, and we're not using our because we're waiting on God. What is this proof for that? How do we know people are just living their lives? When I'm around black folks that got a lot of money and got money and living their life or got average income to above average income, they're not saying I'm waiting on God. They don't look at themselves as being needing liberation. They're not shackled. He brings the slave analogy. And he said, I can understand how slaves would be waiting on God. That has nothing to do with us today. Black folks, I'm around when I'm playing ball with them, talking to them, I'm, doing business transactions for multi-million-dollar deals and stuff like that. When I'm doing that with black folks, They're not talking about, I'm waiting on God. They're just doing their thing. They're not worried about anything like that. So again, that's a straw man. I want the audience to hear that. A straw man. A straw man is an argument when you pretend like you're attacking the real argument of the person you're conversing with, when you're really attacking an argument they really don't even have. Nobody is saying that. That's just him creating this straw man because that makes him the person who saw the enemy, and he's warning us of an enemy that doesn't even exist, so we look at him as some kind of hero. Substituting a person's actual position or argument with a distorted, exaggerated, or misrepresented version of the position of the argument. That's very important. People need to understand that's a straw man. Different than a still man, which is using somebody's argument in the right way and explaining somebody's point correctly. But let's go.
On chicken, turkey, beef, and pork, which means we're literally financing our own cancer diagnosis. I mean, the reason people have trouble feeling sorry for Black America is Black America got the money to solve their own problems, but they're not interested because it takes love to do that. And for 400 years, we've been taught how to hate ourselves.
So let's go there. Black economics, right? The black dollar. It circulates everywhere except in the Black community.
16 hours. The black dollar leaves the Black community in 16, not even 24. It don't even take a whole day before that dollar jump out your hand. Jewish community, I think it's something like 18 times. Asian community, I think it's something like 28 times. Everybody else's dollar circulates more than a dozen times before it leaves. Black community dollar, it leaves within 16 hours. You know why? Because Black people are allergic to other Black people. We would rather buy white than buy Black. I'm gonna give you a personal example. I just told you about the sneaker shop where my mother used to buy my shoes. Next to the Garvey movement, you see this? Right across the street from the Garvey movement in the white sneaker store was a Black sneaker store. Guess what? Everybody still bought their sneaks from the white Jew. The Black man was out of business in less than a year. See that? And he had better prices and better sneaks. It didn't matter. Black people love white people. And one of the things we do not want to admit, and one of the things that's going to be necessary for us to overcome our situation, we don't want to admit the psychological dependence on white folks. This is why you hear Negroes say things like integration destroyed Black people. Who integrated us? There has never been integration. There's only been desegregation. Deseg is not the same. When you desegregate, you forcibly remove the legal barriers to entry. So public schools desegregated. They removed the barriers that excluded Blacks. But did they force you into the white school? No. When they desegregated the white hospitals, did they force you to close down your Black hospitals and start going to the white hospitals? Did they force you to leave your Black communities and move into the white community? Did they force you to stop sending your children to HBCUs and start overwhelmingly sending them to PWI universities? The white man desegregated. The Black man integrated. We wanted to be with white people. We love white people. Why do you think educated Black men marry snow bunnies more than the men of every other race put together? We are intoxicated with Caucasian people, and we keep on making excuses as to why we don't want to leave them people alone. And truth be told, it's
You got anything you want to say? You want to say before we move on?
How about you have something you wanted to cover on this? But
I have an idea. I have an idea why Blacks are having relations with white women. I think it's a bunch of studies that came out that pointed out that Black men are the second most desired men on this planet. So Black men nowadays got more access. So that could be it. I don't know. That could be one of the reasons. I don't know. Any thoughts?
yeah, I think going along with what he's talking about here, I do agree with some of his sentiments. Desegregation and integration obviously can be slightly different things. Just because they take the legal barriers away to where Blacks can go to white establishments if they so choose, doesn't mean we have to do that. But in my perspective, I'm not going to disparage my ancestors by thinking they didn't have good reason for doing so. We can easily go, it's because they thought white was better. White ice was lighter than, was colder than Black ice. Mm-hmm. We could say that. But it could be a number of reasons why. My whole point is this right here. I want the audience to understand he is a Pan-Africanist. which means that he has to push narratives where it's better for blacks to coexist apart from whites. So if there's
Yeah.
any doubt, his faith-based philosophy pushes him towards, say, separation. That's what we're gonna. That's what I'm taking from this whole conversation right here.
Yeah.
Blacks didn't integrate because whites had better stuff. To given the context of what was going on, they had a self-hate situation.
And yeah, for the audience, like this the purpose of the show, not just the show, but the purpose of this platform, why we created this. This is to enhance your critical thinking, not to just be sold on one idea why somebody's doing this or why this person's doing that, to really explore all the possibilities, right? So just keep that in mind while we going over a lot of points Umar is making. Anything you want to add before we get started
No,
again?
no, let's keep going. Let's keep going. How
All
far? I guess how much longer we? Well, I guess
got like 6 minutes. 6 minutes.
Oh, we almost
7
done
minutes.
already. That's what's up.
All right.
Because of our racial inferiority complex that has us believing that if you ain't got no white people around you, if you ain't living with white, if you ain't dating white, if you ain't sleeping white, if you ain't working white, if you ain't learning white, then you are an inferior being. This is exactly why black parents.
Well, is that a real? I want to address that. Can we address that about the inferior complex? You got anything you want to say about that? True or false? Do you agree or disagree?
I can't deny that it definitely exists within our culture, but I've seen it both ways. I've seen white people in white culture feel inferior to blacks.
I'll get some examples. You got to get some examples.
Like personal examples?
Whatever you want to, for the people to understand how it's similar for the white people to feel inferior. However you want to explain it. The best way to explain it.
I mean, I guess I could give personal. I mean, I would prefer not to give personal examples because this is anecdotal. But I can do it. I mean, the reality is that there's many white comedians who talk about how being black is better. Daniel Tosh, I've heard many white comedians talk about how I grew up idolizing black people. I've had white friends who, wish they were black, wish they had more melanin, wish they had more swag, wish they had a bigger this, whatever it was.
But what's the saying though? A lot of people want to be black, but until they become black. What's your thoughts on that? Yeah, everybody want to be black.
That could very well be true. I want to be white until it comes to my vertical. Then I'm like, no, I still want to dunk. You know what I'm saying? So we all have our things, our trade-offs, our pros and our cons. My point is this right here is that when Dr. Umar is talking about the black perspective, I would like to see a little bit more balance on that.
True. All righty. Anything else before we get into it?
No, go ahead.
All right.
Spend $20,000, $30,000 a year to send a child to a white private school. We're not even talking college. We're talking grade school. $20,000 and $30,000. I know because I do the IQ testing to make sure they don't have no disabilities in order to get accepted. And I'm looking at what these parents is paying these white folks so they can get a thorough education on how to hate being black and how to be enamored with white skin. And then when your daughter comes out wanting to look like a white girl, you say, what happened to my child? And when your son come out wanting to date nothing but snow bunnies, you say, what happened to my son? You are what happened to your son. Black people do not want to be free. We want to be accepted by white people.
That's a bar. Can you give us though a history lesson? I just want to shift gears real quick. A history lesson on the relationship between Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X.
Well,
I don't look at young black males wanting to date white, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, Middle Eastern women any different. I look at me, the fact that I like Italian food, I like Indian food, I like Chinese food, I like all kinds of different kind of foods. I love soul food too, comfort food. But I gotta taste the time.
Are you comparing what? You comparing women to food? Is that what you're doing right now?
I'm not comparing women to food. I'm comparing human nature to have preferences for things and have desires for things, whether it's humans or food or scenery. You got black folks going to Greece and Italy. They're going to Africa too. But my point is saying that that's just human nature. And part of what he's saying to me is the debilitating because he's limiting the black experience. Why can't a young black man decide he wants to date white women or Hispanic women or Asian women if that's where he lives and that's what he likes at the time?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not too fond of the narrative that the reason people are, like you said, indulging in different cultures or dating outside of the race that they actually hate themselves. I'm not. I don't agree with that narrative. But go ahead. I just wanted to
No, I'm
say
100%
that.
agree because again, our generation, a little older, our parents were children of the civil rights movement people. So I get it. You would not have it already in our psyche to be pro-black. I got that. I've got a brother who's 20 years old. He's so far removed from that. He's not thinking about that. He's thinking about what's economical. He's very much entrepreneurship minded. He's thinking about what's the best fit for what he's got going on in his life. And that's okay. That white kid, that Asian kid, whatever it is, they're going to pick what suits them. They're not going to pick based off of some kind of loyalty to a cause from 50, 100 years ago.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, they have more options. Like there's a lot of studies that show that black men are the second most desirable men on this planet. So
Yeah.
if you got those options, it's kind of, I mean, it makes sense that, especially the young generation, they are going to partake in a lot of this stuff. So they got more access to this stuff. So, I mean, that's common sense, you know.
Yeah, facts. If I'm a average looking black young man who's doing well for himself as a young man, and I can get a 9 or an 8 Hispanic white woman, right? Get a 9 or 8 Hispanic white woman, or I can get a 6 or 7 black woman because the black woman on the 8 or 9 level don't look at me as, you know, hip enough or masculine enough. That's what I'm gonna take.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, that's one thing I try to be careful of. Like, what's that term? Policing people's penis. I'm not really big on that.
Let people live their
People
lives.
gonna do whatever they want to do, what they remember, you know. So, yeah, Umar's being the police.
I may be pro-black in
members.
ways, but I'm a child of the civil rights movement, so it makes sense why I'm so pro. The next generation, they pro what's going to benefit them. They're pro-capitalism. They're pro upward mobility, social mobility, socioeconomic mobility. They're taking what we did and taking it to the next level.
Definitely, for sure. All right, let's get into it.
The relationship between Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X.
Well, first of all, to put it in proper context, both men come from the Garvey movement.
Okay.
Malcolm X's father, Earl Little, was a division president for the Honorable Marcus Garvey in Lansing, Michigan, I believe. His mother, Louise, used to write articles for Marcus Garvey's Negro World. This is the largest, most circulated black newspaper of all time. And the paper was so revolutionary that if you got caught with it in Africa or the Caribbean, it could land you in jail for life. It could lead to a public whipping. And in some cases, it could lead to your execution. So Malcolm's mother used to write for the paper. Malcolm's father was actually murdered during the work of the Honorable Marcus Garvey. And it was Malcolm X's father, Earl Little, who wrote to President Calvin Coolidge during Garvey's incarceration, demanding his release. Malcolm X's father helped lead the charge for the exoneration of the Honorable Marcus Garvey. So Malcolm, although he was a young child, he still...
That's crazy. Malcolm was raised in the Garvey.
Recordings just got better. Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard. I'm so excited to announce.
They got to pay us
What
for
was like for
this.
you growing up in Philly?
Poverty, same thing that y'all probably deal with in Chicago. You know, in fact, right
man.
now I just read an article, very unfortunate to read it, that and he had better prices and better sneaks. Who wrote to President Calvin Coolidge during Garvey. So Malcolm's mother used to write for the paper. Malcolm's father was actually murdered during the work of the Honorable Marcus Garvey. And it was Malcolm X's father, Earl Little, who wrote to President Calvin Coolidge during Garvey's incarceration, demanding his release. Malcolm X's father helped lead the charge for the exoneration of the Honorable Marcus Garvey. So Malcolm, although he was a young child, he still remembered his life in the Garvey movement because he wrote about it. There's books where Malcolm actually talks about how the meetings were, the things that he learned, and what his father taught. So when Malcolm met Mr. Muhammad, that organization was very close to the organization that his father had built. And Mr. Muhammad himself, having once been a follower of the Honorable Marcus Garvey and pledged allegiance to the red, black, and green flag, because if you was a member, you had to do that. When he founded the new organization after Garvey's deportation, much of the structure of the organization was borrowed directly from Garvey. So Garvey had the Universal African Legion that became the Fruit of Islam. Garvey had the Universal African Black Cross Nurses that became the MGT. The divisions became MOS, so forth and so on. In fact, when Mr. Muhammad started the early organization in his youth, he used many of Marcus Garvey's quotes to help gain the attention of people. Because remember now, this was the largest black organization in modern history. The leader is gone and America ain't letting them come back. You see that? So everybody who came with an organization post-Garvey used Garvey's words to help attract Garvey's followers to the new organization. I believe the unfortunate split between the two men was largely due to the fact that Malcolm wanted to participate in the Black Revolution freedom struggle. Okay. Malcolm was sitting back. He's watching SNCC. He's watching CORE. He's watching the sit-ins. He's watching the freedom movement. He's watching the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He's watching the Deacons for Defense. He's looking at all these black organizations fighting for justice, freedom, liberation. Some were integrationists, some were nationalists, but they were fighting. And Malcolm didn't feel his organization was doing enough to participate in the black freedom struggle. And I think that was a major reason for that split. Malcolm wanted to do more than just talk. He wanted to struggle for black people.
So what do you say Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. fit in the midst of all this?
One of the big ironies, contradictions between the integrationists, Honorable Frederick Douglass, militant integrationist, Dr. King, nonviolent integrationist, Malcolm X, nationalists, or even if you look at Mr. Muhammad and his organization, one of the criticisms that has always been levied against the nationalist community. For all y'all talk, y'all haven't produced for the black community what the integrationists have. Frederick Douglass helped get us a 13th Amendment, a 14th Amendment, a 15th Amendment. Dr. King helped get us a Civil Rights Bill of 64, a Voting Rights Act of 65, a Fair Housing Act of 68. That's 6 pieces of major legislation from 2 integrationist leaders. What have y'all gotten us on the nationalist side? I would partially concur to an extent that the nationalists have to do a better job of counting victories and achievements. We're good on rhetoric, good on the message, good on the platform, good on the principle. But when it comes to measurable gains for African people outside of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, of course, and a few other nationalists, they really haven't achieved much. You see that? So most people are going to go with whoever puts the bread on the table. The integrationists put bread on the table. The nationalists, not as much. For me, Dr. King is a hero. Some people say, Dr. Umar, how in the hell can the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. be a hero to a revolutionary Pan-Africanist? He wasn't focused on Africa. He wasn't about fighting the white man. You know why Dr. King is one of my heroes? I don't judge my heroes based on ideology. You feel me? I might get my associates and soldiers based on ideology. We ain't struggling unless you're a Pan-Africanist. But my heroes is based on their sacrifice for the people. Dr. King gave his life. Dr. King did not have to do what he did. Dr. King was born in a well-to-do, famous family. His father and grandfather were well-known preachers. Dr. King could have been a T.D. Jakes. Dr. King could have been a Creflo Dollar. He did not have to put his life on the line for black people. His house got bombed twice with his wife and kids in it. The average Negro would have gave up then. Dr. King said, nah, I'm not giving up. So people can criticize Dr. King all they want. Who else got their house bombed twice and stayed with the movement? These Negroes don't even want to donate to a movement, much less risk their life for it. Dr. King struggled for us. And even though he's considered nonviolent, when they went up against them dogs and them hoses, ain't nothing nonviolent about getting bit by dogs. You know, there was elders who got their breast bit off. The dog bit the breast off. Dr. King went to jail over 100 times. The nationalists wasn't going to jail for black people. They were talking shit while Dr. King was struggling. You see that? So for me, can't nobody say nothing to me about Dr. King. He wasn't perfect, but guess what? He's the last leader. He's the last leader in Black America to give you a serious, comprehensive plan for systemic change, politically, socially, and economically. Jesse Jackson ain't done that. Al Sharpton ain't done that. Nobody you can name has done anything even close to Dr. King, and we 55 years since he was murdered. So can't nobody say nothing to me about Dr. King. Every time I go to Atlanta, as much as I can when I'm in Atlanta, I go to Dr. King grave and I sit there and I get my sage out and I burn it and I talk to Dr. King, him and Queen Mother Coretta Scott King, because in my position, but what I'm trying to do, I'm picking up where he left off, not with the integration. I'm coming another way with the nationalism. But Dr. King had a little Pan-Africanism because after Malcolm got murdered in 65, Dr. King goes to Jamaica. He meets with the Garveyites in Jamaica. He visits Marcus Garvey's gravesite, and they give him a thorough education on what Garveyism is all about. Dr. King said Marcus Garvey was the first black man to give our people a large, serious movement for change. And when Dr. King came back from visiting the Garveyites in Jamaica, he started sounding like Malcolm. He started sounding like Garvey. Listen to Dr. King the last year of his life. He ain't preaching no damn integration. He preaching Garvey. When Kwame Nkrumah led Ghana to its independence on March 6, 1957, who was in that audience in Ghana celebrating the independence of the first post-colonial state? Dr. King and Coretta. He wasn't out with his Pan-Africanism, you feel me? But Dr. King had a space in his heart for Pan-Africanists, and he was definitely influenced by Garvey because the last year of his life, he was talking Garveyism, and that's why they had to die. Dr. King didn't die for integration. Dr. King died for economic revolution. The reason Dr. King was murdered, after he left Memphis, he was on his way to Washington, D.C. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference was spearheading a breadbasket campaign. He was taking poor people of every color, but he was taking poor people to America, to the nation's capital. Nobody was leaving unless they left with a job and a house. And Lyndon Baines Johnson and J. Edgar Hoover lost their mind. They said, if you let this Negro come to the nation's capital with all these poor people from across the country and erect a tent city and nobody leaving without a job or a house, it will embarrass this country and might lead to social revolution. Dr. King is the first man since Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Marcus Garvey, in my opinion, who damn near brought America to its knees. That's why they killed him. Not for integration, but for economic liberation.
It just made me think about how the FBI killed Fred Hampton.
All right, that's the last segment. You got any thoughts?
I definitely agree with a lot about what he's saying as far as Martin Luther King is concerned. I don't have much to say about this part right here. I think he did a really good job of explaining Martin Luther King's contribution. It's been well known, for a while that it was his economic endeavors that were putting him in the crossfire with the putting him in crossfire with the government as far as like his work with the workers unions and stuff like that he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was more of an issue than the integration stuff. That's pretty well documented.
Yeah, the poor man's campaign.
Yeah, poor man's campaign. So I definitely agree with Dr. Umar about that stuff right there. I think that I've actually met people that black women specifically who did not like Martin Luther King. They didn't.
Yeah, it's a large segment in our community, the black community, that don't like. They don't agree with a lot of Martin Luther King's tactics. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a. Sometimes I wonder if it's 50-50 as far as people that agree.
I wouldn't be surprised. We should probably go to the streets one day and just do interviews and ask people, what's your honest thoughts on Martin Luther King? I think part of it, we learn about him in school, because we learned about him in school. We don't tend to like him because we're kind of anti-establishment, anti-whatever we learned in formal education. So I think that, unfortunately, he's a part of that.
Yeah, and we do get a watered down version of King. He was radical a lot of times, and that's a lot of his speeches don't get highlighted. That was a good point he made about Martin Luther King sounding more like Malcolm. There's a lot of historians that heard, even myself, I read the book, Where Do We Go From Now? I don't know if he sounded like Garvey. I don't know if Umar's reaching on that.
Yeah.
He did sound a little different. Not to say he sounded different because of Garvey, but you could tell he was getting older, and he would. It's a lot of ways I could probably deal with that in the show, but but he did sound a lot different. He did early 50s, mid 50s.
Did we cover the 45 minutes for the day?
Oh, 45? Nah, that was 30. We do 50 more?
We'll close it out here.
And so so to the audience, thank y'all for tuning in. Vocal Soapbox, like I told you, the purpose of the show is to help elevate and suggest or give you tools to be more critical in thought, whatever you listen to be critical of everything around you, especially in this world around you. So, like I said in the beginning, try to think about thinking while you're thinking. So, any last thoughts, Vocal?
That's pretty much it. Thanks for y'all tuning in today. We're one person short today, but the main thing is that we still wanted to give y'all some good insight into the conversation. again, the thing about doing an interview is that not every part's gonna be as important as others. The first 30
Mm-hmm.
minutes we did, we cover a lot of good material. This
Who
segment right here, the in betweener,
who
uh,
is this, man?
a lot of stuff that he
Hold
said
on, we
was
got to guess. We got to guess. Who's this?
Yo, hey, hold on, man. Y'all take me down for a second, man. I'm trying to get
All
right.
right,
Y'all,
go. All right. Let me go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Vogel.
so yeah, I was saying like in this situation right here, we had a lot of what he said for the most part in this segment wasn't that controversial to me. I think
Mm-hmm.
he brought up a lot of good points. He was very informative. I'm not here to attack anybody. I'm not here to attack somebody if they're saying things that make a lot of sense. I just want to
I
say this, sorry, go ahead.
I do want to ask you. Last episode, you said you had criticism about his school because he said he was going to add astrology as one of the subjects in the school. I don't think he really elaborated on that because you might have to explain that, especially where you got a lot of people that's into that. A lot of people believe in astrology. Anything you
Yeah,
want to say? Yeah.
I'll cover that next time. I think he's gonna go more in detail about his school on the next show.
Yes.
So
All right. All right.
wait to that one right there, and then just dive into it at that point.
All right. Cool. Cool.
So I thank y'all for y'all's time. Please like, subscribe, share. This one wasn't as explosive as the last one we did, but I don't want to be involved in sensationalism and just saying things for the sake of saying things. I want it to be if what he's saying makes sense. It makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. So we're gonna stay true to that in our integrity.
No doubt. No doubt. Until next time.
Yes, sir.
Peace.
All right, y'all.